One Zambia, one nation. Good evening, TV2, the powers of television, with the news at 18. My name is Obstar Mbebe. We take a look at stories making headlines at this hour. President Edgar Lungu says he will not handpick his successor because the decision lies entirely in the hands of the Zambian people. Police have arrested a 39-year-old man for defiling an 8-year-old girl in Kapiriposhi, Central Province. And in sports news, Zambia's representatives in the CAF club competitions, Zanaco and Zesco United, are through to the next stage of their respective competitions. Thank you so much for joining us. Now the news in detail. President Edgar Lungu says he will not handpick his successor because the decision lies entirely in the hands of the Zambian people. President Lungu has further explained that his successor will be chosen through the PF convention. TV2's Katwishi Waria reports that President Lungu was speaking last night at Swaziland's Royal Villa when he met Zambians living in that country. Here's a report.
President Edgar Lungu has taken time to meet Zambians living in Swaziland. President Lungu, who was in Swaziland attending a SADC Heads of State Summit, assured Zambians living in Swaziland that the country is in good hands under his leadership. It took time to respond to questions from Zambians.
What have been the incentives, Your Excellency, that you are calling us to be able to come back home to do? We want to come and do something, but I think we would like to know which areas we should concentrate.
I would like to recommend you, Mr. President, for the tremendous job that you are working in Zambia, and in particular, my district where I come from.
And on the issue of his successor, President Lungu said he will leave it to Zambians to decide.
The Zambians will choose who takes over from me. I don't think Mr. Michael Chufasata handed over to me. He left it to the people of Zambia. But he had confidence in me because I was one amongst the 10, 15 people who were in limelight at the time. So this is not a family affair where I just wake up, Madam Margaret Manakate will be the next president, or Madam Bisahari Kalama minister. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. But what these people are doing around me will determine whom the Zambian can have confidence in. Just like when President Sata was around, he had a number of lieutenants around him, a number of men and women who surrounded him. In his own way, he exposed us. When he was no more, you chose, at least the people in PF chose me, and the Zambians endorsed. That's how it goes.
On the issue to do with the liquidation of the Post newspapers, President Lungu says he played no role in the liquidation of the tabloid.
The Post newspaper and the editor-in-chief, the managing editor, Fred Membe, I've got no issues with him. They were against me when I was campaigning, and I believe they're still against me, but I've got no reason to want to put them in trouble. What do I gain? I've got bigger things to do. Running the country is not an easy thing. There are so many responsibilities, such that I would be wasting time, and I would be a fool to waste time on Fred Membe and the Post newspaper. That I can tell you. Even at the height of provocation, I can just say, oh, look at this man, why is he provoking me? And then I'll leave it at that. That's me. If there are other leaders in Africa who believe in sorting out the media because they've written ugly things about me, about them, I'm not one such person. At my level, I should be above these things.
And President Lungu said modalities for dual citizenship have been put in place. He said what is remaining now is for a CAB memo before Cabinet finally approves dual citizenship. Katwishi Wadia reporting from LWINDI, Swaziland.
The extraordinary SADC Heads of State Summit was discussing the industrialization strategy and regional economic integration, as well as the SADC Action Plan from 2015 to 2063. The summit also discussed food security in the region following the outbreak of armyworms. And speaking when officially opening the summit, SADC chairperson Swaziland's King Mswati said the SADC Action Plan is very critical in addressing job and wealth creation for SADC countries and their people. The Commonwealth says Zambia's August 11, 2016 general elections were credible after having been held in an inclusive and orderly manner. This is contained in a letter dated March 16, 2017 and written to President Edgar Lungu by the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Patricia Scotland. Ms. Scotland has since assured President Lungu of the Commonwealth's support to Zambia. Foreign Affairs Minister Hari Kalaba has disclosed this to journalists on the sidelines of the extraordinary SADC Heads of State Summit in Swaziland, which has since closed.
That came to Zambia congratulated President Lungu. Here I am. I have got now just a letter from the Commonwealth Secretary General. Again, just reiterating his congratulations. Zambia remains a credible state in terms of good governance. That is why you have seen that the inflow of trade has increased. You've seen that the visits from fellow heads of state to President Lungu has increased. On the 27th of this month, we'll be receiving the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Prime Minister Haile Mariam is visiting Zambia. 2 weeks later, we'll be having the President of Togo will be visiting Zambia. 2 weeks from that, again, we'll be having the President of Madagascar visiting Zambia. Now, those leaders can't visit Zambia if Zambia does not have a president.
Government says it plans to reduce the national housing deficit among law enforcement agencies from 12,000 to 7,500 by 2019. Home Affairs Minister Stephen Kampyongo has said this today in Kabwe Central Province when he commissioned 42 houses built at Mkoweko Correctional Facility. More in the following report.
They have every reason to sing and dance. These are Prisoners Women Club showing their excitement for the completion of the 42 housing units for men and women of the Zambia Correctional Services in Kabwe's Mkoweko Correctional Camp. Home Affairs Minister Stephen Kampyongo was at hand to commission the newly built houses.
I am confident that we shall reduce the housing deficit of the ministry from 12,000 housing units in 2011 to just under 7,500 housing units by the end of 2019. We shall therefore, in due course, eliminate the housing deficit altogether.
Commissioner General Pace Chato commended government for this development.
Levels of cleanliness, both inside and outside these houses. Complaints of vandalism will be dealt with accordingly. I urge you to maintain the houses as though they were your personal assets.
And AVIC International Deputy General Manager Chu Ji has thanked the government for granting his company an opportunity to construct the houses.
This project aims to provide 2,350 units of houses for the security wings and improve their housing conditions. During the construction period, we cooperated with local suppliers and the labor force in order to share the benefits to Zambians and provide more local employment opportunities.
Such infrastructure for the men and women in the correctional service will not only reduce housing deficit, but will also increase morale and pride amongst the officers. Kruger Siankuru, Zanis, Kabwe Central Province.
Now, police have arrested a 39-year-old man for defiling an 8-year-old girl in Kapirimposhi, Central Province. The minor has since died. Police spokesperson Esther Katongo has confirmed this, saying the incident happened yesterday, Friday, March 17, at about 20 hours. Ms. Katongo has identified the suspect as Jack Hawenzo of Luchu area, Chief Anjaliga in Mazabuga, Southern Province. Ms. Katongo has explained that police suspect The deceased was beaten by unknown people and he later went to sleep in the truck before dying. She was speaking on 7 Days Today, a TV2 News and Current Affairs program.
Received another report which happened in Kapirimponshi, where this man was coming from a drinking spree, and he had some balance of payment which he was supposed to get from a colleague in material compound. So he went there around 20 hours to ask for his 150 kwacha. So after, and I don't know whether the money was given to him or what, because that family knows that person, and these children, they know that person. You know, the children would probably be calling that person uncle. Then he just said, young girl, let's go. I buy you sweets, escort me. You know, I buy you sweets. That's how this 8-year-old girl followed this man last evening. Followed this man. And after the family realized to say that it was taking long for the girl to come back, they made a follow-up. And after hearing some noise in the nearby bush, they found this person in the act of defiling this girl. So when they picked the 8-year-old girl, took her to Kapirimponshi District Hospital, that child died.
A medical doctor has been arrested in Lusaka for being in possession of $84,000 of counterfeit notes. DC spokesperson Teresa Katongo has confirmed this in a statement identifying the suspect as Daniel Maswau, aged 54, of Kawata Township. Ms. Katongo has explained that the suspect was arrested at a named shopping mall in Lusaka, and the DC on the Copper Belt has arrested a 48-year-old Zambian businesswoman for receiving stolen property as well as aiding and abetting crime. Mavis Kapeka Nshiku, who resides in South Africa, is alleged to have hacked into the Zampo Swift Cash business system to generate fake transactions amounting to over 19,000 kwacha. The suspect is alleged to have further instructed her relatives and friends to withdraw the money in different amounts and from different locations. Ms. Katongo has also said the commission has also seized 12 sachets of heroin and over 1,000 kilograms of cannabis in connection with the arrests. We now take our first break. We have more on the other side. Keep watching TV2. Welcome back, and we continue with the news. Lusaka's CHAWAMA Ward 2 Councillor Leonard SIKOMBE has warned bar owners in the area against opening their outlets before the stipulated time. Mr. SIKOMBE was speaking in reference to complaints from CHAWAMA residents that bars are still opening before the stipulated hours. This follows the Lusaka City Council's recent closure of some bars that were found opening early, whose owners have since been prosecuted. More in this report.
It is only 9 hours in the morning and these bars are open. And in the worst case scenario, the majority of patrons in these bars are underage. Area Councillor Leonard SIKOMBE is however not happy with this scenario. Mr. SIKOMBE has reiterated that this is illegal and he wants the young people in CHAWAMA to change and focus on productive activities.
The resident in the area, they must not go to the bars early in the morning. In the morning is the time to work. In the morning is not the time to drink. I appeal to my fellow youths, please, let's stop drinking, let's concentrate on school. And that's only then that we are going to develop the word CHAWAMA.
Meanwhile, the residents are also not happy with what is happening. They have complained of increased cases of children patronizing these bars.
So bambe ko kulabeka tamwandi nfyachiramu bambi balela ati baya kuma skulu tabalia kuma skulu nga bakoneka nishichapo baingira kaya ama baba le isula 8 hours nishiba isula maba so maba at least ba peleko time ya kuisula mwaba kanso bereka bapitirisha
kuno kuties kuno ekubipresa n'abana barangala sana maba bana banono so tulefo obuteko bubike kwa makasana kutati ba control situation y'abana banonwa.
The residents have since called on the council to intervene and apprehend whoever is found wanting. Tiwange Namwaba, TV2 News in Lusaka.
Finance Minister Felix Mutati says there is need to move to cost-reflective electricity tariffs in order to find equity for ZESCO for the financing of the Kafue Gorge Lower Hydroelectricity Power Project. The financing for the Kafue Gorge Lower Hydro Power Project is in two ways, namely ZESCO equity and a loan from the Exim Bank of China. We have more details in this report.
This is the construction site for the 750 megawatts Kafue Gorge Lower Power Hydro project located in Kafue. Construction on this site started on the 15th of January 2016 and is expected to run until April 2020. The Hydro Electricity Power Project has a two-way financing, ZESCO equity and a loan from the Exim Bank of China. Financing for the project has been cited as one of the challenges that could slow the pace of works here. Minister of Finance Felix Mutati and his energy counterpart David Mawumba on Friday afternoon visited the site. While on site, Mr. Mutati said there is need to adjust electricity tariffs so that ZESCO can meet its equity portion of financing for the project.
At the level of tariff where we are, it will become increasingly difficult even for government to find the resource to make that equity contribution, much more worse for ZESCO. So the issue of tariff adjustment, we are going to do soon in order to support the equity investment that is required for this project.
Meanwhile, Energy Minister David Mawumba has disclosed that the government is also discussing with an Australian firm which wants to put up a 2,000 megawatts coal-powered plant.
In Imamba, we have got the Mamba coal plant, which has been completed. We are discussing with one company from Australia, which wants to put up 2,000 megawatts of coal power generation plants in Imamba. They want to begin with 1,000. We had a meeting with them 2 days ago.
And Kafue Gorge Hydro Power Project Director Wesley LWINDI disclosed that 2,100 locals have so far been employed.
Currently, we have a workforce of about 2,600 workers, consisting of just over 2,000 local workers and 408 Chinese expatriates. We expect that this labor force will be increasing in the next 1 year or so as the works reach a peak.
Meanwhile, Mr. Mutati says Zambians employed on the project must acquire skills necessary to run the hydropower plant once it's completed. The project is being undertaken by Sino Hydro of China.
Now, over 140 vehicles have been impounded at Kasumbalesa border post on the Copper Belt for smuggling meal into the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. Meanwhile, smuggling of meal has drastically reduced by 95% owing to the efforts of officers from the Zambia National Service, ZNS. And Agriculture Minister Dora Siria, who has toured the border post today, wants a free trade zone established at Kasumbalesa border post to allow Zambia and the DRC to trade freely. Ms. Ria, who was accompanied by Copperbelt Minister Bowman Osambo, is certain that women are in the forefront of smuggling meal. This is TV2 News. We now take another break. We'll be back shortly after this. And now in foreign news. A man has been shot dead after trying to seize a soldier's weapon at Paris's Orly airport. The 39-year-old was killed by the security forces after attacking a patrol in the airport's south terminal. The airport has now partially reopened after what the authorities described as an extremely serious incident. The man was involved in a shooting north of Paris earlier on Saturday. He had been reported as radicalized in the past and was a police watch list. He had a long criminal record, including convictions for armed robbery, French media report. We move on to sports news. Soccer analyst Ruben Kamanga says he has confidence in the under-20 team that is preparing for the Junior World Cup in South Korea. The under-20 team has been invited for a 4-nation invitational tournament in South Korea, which starts on March 23. Kamanga has told TV2 Sports that the Junior Polo Polo will deliver. More in this report.
She has unveiled his team for the 4-national invitational tour in South Korea. The tournament kicks off on March 23, 2017. The hosts South Korea, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, and Zambia make up the tournament participants. However, missing from the squad are Conrad Ruchanga, Patson Daka, Mumba Mwapi, and Fashion Sakala. But soccer analyst Ruben Kamanga says he has confidence in the players selected.
Significantly missing out of that squad is Fashion Sakala, Patson Daka, and 1 or 2 players that have returned to their clubs. I think it's normal. You saw that even the team that went to Spain for the training, for that couple of days training, did not have those players, but it was still a strong squad. They went and achieved a couple of positive results. What's important is that even if you're missing 4 key players, you have to keep the momentum.
This is as the team prepares to play in the Under-20 World Cup to take place in South Korea this May. And Kamanga has since advised the players to make the country proud again as they featured this tournament.
The players that have been summoned to fill the void that has been left by those important players have got a duty. They now have to prove to the court that they are actually worth considering for a permanent slot, or even being considered as part of the squad of the team that will be traveling to South Korea for the Under-20 World Cup in May. So I think that I'm not too worried about the players that have been left out or that have gone to their respective clubs. I'm more concerned about the players that have been drafted. It's a huge opportunity. When you've got a team performing and punching beyond their weights and you're included, I think you've got a huge task to show that you're actually worth a place.
Coach Chambeshi is using the invitational tournament to prepare his team for the South Korea World Cup. Lucky PHIRI, reporting for TV2 Sports in Lusaka.
And finally, Zambia's representatives in the CAF club competitions, Zanaco and Zesco United, are through to the next stage of their respective competitions. Zanaco have registered a scoreless draw with Young Africans of Tanzania to qualify to the group stage of the CAF Champions League via a 1-0 aggregate scoreline. Zesco United have also held Masa Jangozi 2-2 to advance to the playoff of the CAF Confederation Cup. Both games were played this afternoon. And now to end the news, the headlines once again. President Edgar Lungu says he will not handpick his successor because the decision lies entirely in the hands of the Zambian people. President Lungu has further explained that his successor will be chosen through the PF convention. Police have arrested a 39-year-old man for defiling an 8-year-old girl in Kapirimposhi, Central Province. The minor has since died. And finally, sports. Zambia's representatives in the CAF club competitions, Zanaco and Zesco United, are through to the next stage of their respective competitions. Zanaco have registered a scoreless draw with Young Africans of Tanzania to qualify to the group stage of the CAF Champions League via a 1-0 aggregate scoreline. And that'll do for the news at 18 on TV2, the powers of television. We have more news at 20 hours. My name is Obstan Bebe. On behalf of the entire production team, good evening.